But I want to start with the biggest news of the morning so far. Jordan Love not practicing with the Green Bay Packers until he gets his contract. And we have laid out the potential scenarios regarding the various veteran players who deserve new contracts. And when you look at the list, I put it together on July 3rd. I dusted it off over the weekend. Jordan Love, clearly one of them. Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, Matthew Stafford, Jamar Chase, Amari Cooper, Matthew Judon, Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb. Trying to remember them all. There are others. Brandon Ayuk, we've talked about him a lot, but all these guys deserve more money than what they're due to make. The question is, how much are they going to get? And what are they going to do to get it? The threshold question, do you show up for training camp? It's a bold move. It can be expensive. For guys not on their rookie contracts, those daily fines cannot be waived. You're spending money. You have every right to do it. We've talked about this before. Oh, they're under contract. I hear that all the time. Oh, how dare they? How dare they violate the contract? Well, they have another contract that gives them rights, the union contract. So you've got a union contract and an individual contract. And you're allowed under the union contract to not comply with the letter of the terms of your individual contract if you're willing to pay the price. They could have drafted the CBA to make it clear that you're not permitted at any time to skip practice, to hold out, to try to get more. So all these players have rights under the CBA if they're willing to pay the price. With Jordan Love, we know the answer. He's holding in. And that's become popular in recent years, where the player reports but doesn't practice until he gets his contract. Now, we've yet to see it with a quarterback. We've seen it with players at other positions. This puts a little extra pressure on the Packers because it's kind of hard to get your team ready for week one if your starting quarterback isn't practicing. Puts a little crimp in the effort to install the playbook and take whatever steps teams will take to focus on getting ready for that first game. There's time spent by most teams, if not all teams, during training camp and the preseason, during the practices that happen then, to focus on week one before the official page is turned to the week one preparations. So without your starting quarterback, good luck. And the Packers knew that this was an issue. $11 million is the compensation for Jordan Love this year. $11 million. Of course he's getting a new contract, but what's it going to be? I did some digging yesterday, and we hinted fairly strongly at the reality that came to fruition today, that he won't be practicing until he gets his contract. And it's more money than structure at this point, but both are issues, and there are other issues that go into a contract of this magnitude. And the most important thing that I will look for when the contract is done, and I fully expect it to be done, how many years are the Packers committed to Love? You've got two extremes here. You've got the Deshaun Watson 5 years fully guaranteed. You're stuck unless you want to pay the guy to not play football for you. You are stuck for 5 years. No matter how he plays, no matter how many times he's injured, what the team does without him, what the team does with him, you're stuck for 5 years, or you got to pay him to not play him. There's a chance the Browns might eventually, either next year or the year after, say, we'll just pay you. Go, leave. We'll pay you the difference between $46 million and whatever you get somewhere else. That's one extreme. The other extreme is the Derek Carr contract. I've mentioned that a few times recently because it proves a very important point. It's the counter to the flood of tweets we'll see when Love does his deal, when Matthew Stafford gets his deal, when Tua Tagovailoa gets his deal, if he does get one. We'll hear the big numbers. That's what the agents want out there. That's what the player in many cases wants out there. How many years is the player tied? And that other end of the extreme is Derek Carr, when he got that big deal 2 years ago from the Raiders. And everybody, all the thumb racers went to Twitter with the numbers. Oh, $40 million a year. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, look at this, which we found out later. The escape hatch for the Raiders after one season. Oh, and they used it. So that's a key factor in all these deals. When can the team say, we're out? Either by cutting the guy or potentially trading him. You know, it's an issue that I delved into over the weekend. I think it was a question last week on PFTPM. what happens with Kirk Cousins after this year? Well, there's a way to trade him and get about $27.5 million that you would take on if you're the new team, if he's willing to waive his no-trade clause. And as I've said repeatedly, if your choices are don't waive it and be on the bench or waive it and have a chance to play, probably going to waive it. So that's the situation with the Packers and Jordan Love. Time is of the essence for the Packers. You want to get your starting quarterback out there, but clearly there's a disagreement. Clearly there's a gap between what Love wants and what the Packers are willing to pay. Something's got to give. And they say it's a deadline-driven business. The deadline should have been the opening of camp. The Packers have to know the drop-dead date to get him in there and get him ready for week 1. And Love has to know. And that's the only problem with the hold-in. That's why I prefer the holdout. The holdout puts a lot more pressure on the team because the player's not there. The player's not involved in meetings. The player's not around. The player's not under their thumb. Also, for the hold-in, and we saw that with Roquan Smith a couple of years ago in Chicago, there's a point where it's time to practice and get ready to play. If the hold-in doesn't result in the new contract, at some point, it's time to work. At some point, you're running up against the possibility of conduct detrimental to the team, of the team concluding that we're no longer okay with this. It's time to get ready to play. And I think also you'll feel a certain amount of pressure from your teammates. They're out there practicing, risking injury, sweating and working, and you're not. Now, I'd like to think that players understand what the hold-in is about and what it means, but there are challenges to the hold-in from the player's perspective, but we'll see. We'll see. The first time a quarterback has done it, and we'll see how long it takes for the Packers to get this deal done. They just need to get it done. They don't have an owner that is looking to refurbish his or her super yacht. All the profits get poured back into the team. And I know there's a salary cap, but Jordan Love proved last year that he can play at a high level. And I really find it hard to imagine the Packers at the negotiating table saying, yeah, but you weren't very good for the first half of the season. This is just all about figuring out where the market is going. And really, as I've said throughout the offseason, the longer you wait, the more expensive it gets. Wouldn't they rather lock in the Jordan Love contract before Matthew Stafford, before Tua, if Tua gets a deal? So, Goody, time to get it done. Your coach needs his player, and there's a chance the dynamics change if Stafford or Tua Tagovailoa get their contracts before the Love deal is done. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.